last week was Ram Navami, most of us were there, and the week before that, Hindi or English mix. Actually, after 1.5 years of 1 year especially of giving classes, I realized my English classes are fraud. So I can either speak only English or only Hindi. Especially after 11 AM batch, I realized I should not be fraud. So anyone here want exclusively only English or only Hindi? या इंग्लिश चलेगा? कोशिश करता हूँ इंग्लिश हो जाए. तो आज के जो क्लास पिछले हफ्ते हमने रामनवमी सेलिब्रेट किया था, उसके पहले we celebrated, I'm sorry, we were discussing about Kunti Maharani prayers. So the climax of the Kunti Maharani prayers, what happens? After all the prayers were discussed, finally Krishna says, "ठीक है, they will stay back." So Krishna is called as, Bible says, "Thy will be done." तो जो भगवान चाहते हैं वो पूर्ण हो जाता है, चाहने मात्र से पूर्ण हो जाता है. लेकिन भगवान चाह रहे थे कि हस्तिनापुर से वापस द्वारका चले जाए. He wanted to go back. But then what happened? His will did not fulfill because his devotee wanted something else. So if you see Chaitanya Charitamrita also, time and time again Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has proved the same principle. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ने संन्यास किस लिए लिया था? भक्ति करने के लिए, वृंदावन जाने के लिए. तो जैसे ही वो संन्यास लेके वृंदावन के लिए निकले, तो ऑन द वे उनको मिले एक there was a diversion, fork जिसको बोलते हैं. So he was not sure which way to go. Of course, the Supreme Lord, but he was still thinking which side to go to Vrindavan. So he asked one boy, which is the direction to go towards Vrindavan? And that boy said this way. And Mahaprabhu believed him, और वो चलते गए उस डायरेक्शन. चलते गए, लेकिन उसमें एक ट्विस्ट था. वो जो लड़का था, he was actually a spy by नित्यानंद प्रभु. नित्यानंद प्रभु को पता था कि ऐसा होने वाला है, तो उन्होंने उस लड़के को बोला, जब महाप्रभु आपसे पूछे कि वृंदावन किस तरफ है, आप बोलो कि गलत जगह है, इस तरफ. तो वृंदावन नहीं, वो शांतिपुर जा रहा था. So it was going towards शांतिपुर में there was house of Advaitacharya. तो जब महाप्रभु गए, महाप्रभु नहीं पता ही, at least the past time. तो जैसे वो गए थे, तो वहाँ पे बोट पे आ रहे अद्वैताचार्य को, और उनको लगा ये गंगा नहीं है, यमुना है. महाप्रभु पूछे कि अरे अद्वैताचार्य प्रभु आप कब आए वृंदावन, यमुना में क्या कर रहे हैं आप? तो फिर उनको पता चला कि ये नहीं, ये उनको ठगा गया है. He was actually misled. Supreme Lord, the leader of all, अखिलांड कोटि ब्रह्मांड नायक, was cheated by his devotees. फिर वहाँ से when finally he goes to, then he meets his mother. उनकी माँ उनको बोलती है कि आप वृंदावन मत जाओ, वृंदावन बहुत दूर है, आप जगन्नाथपुरी चले जाओ, क्योंकि पुरी और बंगाल में डिवोटीज आते जाते रहते. So devotees keep coming and going. At least I'll get to know that you are happy and you are safe, you are well to do. So then Lord changes his plan. Again, second time, to go to Jagannath and he stays there. And then after going to Jagannath Puri, he says, at least I'll go for a yatra and come back to Vrindavan. We'll be going for yatra. We have a lot of plans now. At the end of this class, our Sridhar Prabhu will be making announcements also. So Mahaprabhu thought at least Vrindavan जाके आता हूँ. The Lord wanted to go to Vrindavan, but devotees are not letting. Devotees बोल रहे थे कि अगले हफ्ते एक बार अभी जन्माष्टमी उसके बाद चले जाना. जन्माष्टमी फिर राधाष्टमी उसके बाद चले जाना. राधाष्टमी also due to that postponing. Finally Mahaprabhu said, I am going. He took blessings from all the devotees and he went towards Vrindavan through Ramki, to Bengal. So when he went to Bengal, his aura was so much, उनकी पवित्रता इतनी ज़्यादा थी क्योंकि भगवान स्वयं थे, तो सब लोग उनके पीछे आने लगे. तो बहुत बड़ा एक झुंड आ गया उनके पीछे, उनका आशीर्वाद लेने के लिए. लोग तैर के आ रहे थे, पानी में चल के आ रहे थे, क्या क्या करके आ रहे थे. तो तब जाके वो मिले रूप और सनातन से, तो उनको दीक्षा दिया. और सनातन गोस्वामी ने उनको बोला, आप वृंदावन जा रहे हो, but you should go to Vrindavan alone, not with such a big group. तो अभी उनका इनिशिएशन हुआ है और गुरु महाराज को एडवाइस दे रहे, लेकिन महाप्रभु क्या बोले, हाँ ठीक है, आप सही बोल रहे. फिर वापस आए वो, और वापस वो हुआ क्या, जब वो जा रहे थे वृंदावन से, जगन्नाथपुरी से वृंदावन पे निकल रहे थे, तो गदाधर पंडित जो हमारे पंचतत्व में जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर, तो उनको महाप्रभु से विरह चाहिए ही नहीं था. He didn't want separation from the Lord. तो उनके पीछे चल रहे थे. तो थोड़ी देर चले, फिर महाप्रभु बोले क्या कर रहे हो, वापस जाओ. बोले नहीं, मैं आपके पीछे थोड़ी आ रहा हूँ, आप भी चल रहे हैं, मैं भी चल रहा हूँ. Coincidentally walking in the same direction. So he was not agreeing that he was following. लेकिन प्रॉब्लम ये था कि गदाधर पंडित ने व्रत किया था क्षेत्र संन्यास, तो वो जगन्नाथ विष्णु कभी नहीं जाने वाले, और उनको टोटा गोपीनाथ का सेवा भी करना था. तो महाप्रभु ने बोला कि बस अभी तो नाव के पास पहुंचे, तो नाव के अंदर गए और वहाँ मुड़ के गदाधर पंडित को स्ट्रिक्टली बोले बस और नहीं, तो गदाधर पंडित वहीं पे रहेंगे। तो महाप्रभु जब वापस आए सनातन गोस्वामी से के एडवाइस सजेशन से, तो वो बोले कि क्योंकि मैंने गदाधर पंडित का दिल दुखाया इसलिए भगवान ने मुझे वृंदावन आने नहीं दिया। तो वो महाप्रभु का यही भाव। फिर उसके बाद फिर एक और बार वो साउथ इंडिया यात्रा खत्म करते हैं, फिर सोचते हैं फिर से वृंदावन जाते हैं। तो वृंदावन जा रहे थे तो उनका एक सर्वेंट भी था बलभद्र भट्टाचार्य, तो झारखंड फॉरेस्ट से उठ के जा रहे थे। तो पहुंचे वृंदावन फाइनली, 2 हफ्ते के लिए रुके। वहां पे इतना लोगों का भीड़ था क्योंकि सब चाहते थे कि महाप्रभु सन्यासी है तो उनके घर में प्रसादम के लिए। तो बलभद्र भट्टाचार्य असिस्टेंट थे ना, सेक्रेटरी, उनके पीछे पड़ते थे हजारों तादाद में। और फिर वो एक बार महाप्रभु के पास आए और बोले कि अभी काम करते हैं, यहाँ से चलते हैं, क्योंकि सुबह सुबह आप उठते हो, आप नहा के आप अमृतला जाते हो, फिर वहां पर आप जाते हो, ड्यूटीज मेरे पीछे पड़ जाते हैं आप, और ड्यूटीज आपको ढूंढते हैं, आप नहीं मिलते तो मेरा दिमाग खाते हैं। देयर इज लिटरली अ वर्स लाइक दैट। तो फाइनली महाप्रभु से स्टी। तो टाइम एंड अगेन वी सी दैट हाउ द लॉर्ड हु इज द सुप्रीम कंट्रोलर, thy will be done, such a person is changing his will depending upon the desire of his devotees। तो यहाँ पे कुर्ती महाराज ने बोला उनको रुक जाइए, तो रुक जाए, लेकिन जैसे ही वो रुक जाते हैं एक और प्रॉब्लम आ जाता है। अभी क्या प्रॉब्लम, अभी तो हो गया ना, अभी सब कुरुक्षेत्र वॉर भी हो गया, कंसा तो पक्का मर गया, सारे डीमंस भी खत्म हो गए। अभी द प्रॉब्लम इज इंटरनल। व्हाट प्रॉब्लम? हमारे युधिष्ठिर महाराज, he went into depression। So before we go into that, we will discuss, today's topic is going to be on Bhishma Mahajan, and as the title says, he is a misunderstood hero, क्योंकि although we see this is a famous portrait where Krishna, we will discuss about this pastime also, Krishna is charging towards Vishnudev. Most people, if you see in India especially, are clear about Ramayana. There are some people having problem of how did Ram kill Vali from behind? How can Lord Ram abandon Mother Sita after all that? They have some problem with her. But when it comes to Krishna, people have a lot of problems. 60,000 queens, the way how can and okay, let me ask a question now. So you have to tell me who's right, who's wrong. I'll tell the name. आपको बताना है सही कौन है, गलत कौन। Lord Ram, सही या गलत? He is on the right. Ravan, गलत, wrong. हनुमान, सही। विभीषण, अर्जुन, द्रोण, सही गलत? अच्छा, भीष्म, अभी इसका आने के बाद तो सही हो गए। If you go and ask outside, people will be like, अरे नहीं उसने दुर्योधन का नमक खाया था, उसका दिमाग भ्रष्ट हो गया and all that। अच्छा, कर्णा, गलत या सही? हाँ, तो अगर बाहर जाएंगे तो बोलेंगे कि कर्ण तो he is a hero for many of the people, right? Especially those people who have suffered some loss in their life and they're looking for some villain in life। इसकी वजह से मेरा ये हो गया, कोविड की वजह से मेरा ये हो गया, फिर जो भी हो, politicians की वजह से। When people are suffering in their life and they want, rather than trying to overcome the suffering, they are trying to find a villain to blame their suffering। So Karna is their hero। एकलव्य, और वॉल्यूम एकदम डाउन हो गया। हाँ, so we will discuss as we go ahead in the classes, we will have elaborate discussions about each of the personalities। जनरली मेरे स्कूल में जब पढ़ा था मैं, तो मुझे एक पास टाइम आया था जहाँ पे एकलव्य इज ट्राइंग टू स्टडी, बट देन ही डज ऑफलाइन लाइक ऑनलाइन क्लास, मतलब द्रोणाचार्य डज दैट, एंड देन देयर आल्सो Arjuna becomes envious according to that textbook story, then Dronacharya asks for his thumb, and Eklavya goes down as the hero. Apparently he comes in Mahabharata also, not much elaboration is there about it. So he is also seen as a hero, so much so that generally when you do correspondence course, जब आप कॉलेज नहीं जा सकते लेकिन आप घर पे बैठ के पढ़ाई कर रहे हो, there is one correspondence course जिसका नाम है एकलव्य कोर्स, एकलव्य नोटबुक्स, टेक्स्ट बुक्स। You don't have to come to college, घर पे बैठे आप एकलव्य की तरह मस्त बन सकते। So that's why Mahabharata is actually a little more complicated compared to Ramayana, because Ramayana is very clear, right people are on the right side, wrong people are on the wrong side। अगर कोई गलत जगह पे है, कोई अच्छा व्यक्ति है लेकिन वो गलत साइड पे है, what does Ramayana say? He changes sides। Example, Look at Mahabharata. Who is the Dharmik and Adharmik in Mahabharata? Kauravas are and Pandavas are. Now in Adharmic side there are people like Bhishma and Drona, and the Dharmic side there are demons or Rakshasas like Gadotkash. So things becomes complicated. So Ramayana is more like black and white, whereas Mahabharata is more like grey, or as they say, the muddle in the middle. It's difficult to directly pinpoint who's right and who's wrong, unless we have the discussions by Acharyas. Today we will discuss about one such personality, that is Bhishma. So what did we discuss just before Bhishma Dev? Yeah, depression of Arasham.
Next slide.
Oracle line.
Okay.
It's coming. Yeah. Yudhishthira's lamentation.
Yes. So Yudhishthira Maharaj went into lamentation. Before Bhagavad Gita started, one person went into depression. Who was that? Arjuna. After the battle of Kurukshetra, another person went into depression. That is Yudhishthira Maharaj. So especially Yudhishthira Maharaj and Arjuna, there is another pastime where when the battle of Kurukshetra was going on, at one point of time, each jagah pe, Karna very brutally defeats Yudhishthira, but doesn't kill him. So Yudhishthira and Karna are face to face, and Karna shoots so many arrows. Karna destroys Yudhishthira's chariot. Karna kills the charioteer. Karna destroys the armor of Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira had to jump from out of his chariot because the chariot got destroyed. So then Karna came, and Karna knows at this point he is actually elder brother of Yudhishthira. Whether Yudhishthira doesn't know. So Karna says, Yudhishthira, your progress is only in speaking. So better go and fight with someone of your level. So insulting words he speaks. And Yudhishthira was very wounded also. On top of that, humiliation also. So he was in the tent in the background. Arjuna gets to know that Yudhishthira Maharaj is actually been wounded. So he was tensioned. So Krishna says to Arjuna, we are to do one thing. We'll go and see him and come back. And then we continue. Because he could see that Arjuna is not in a proper state of mind. So then they go to see Arjuna, Yudhishthira. So जब युधिष्ठिर के टेंट में जाते हैं, तो जैसे ही अर्जुन अंदर आते हैं, अर्जुन और कृष्ण, युधिष्ठिर महाराज को लगता है कि अर्जुना ने कर्ण को मार के आया है. So he was so much in anxiety, and this is 17th day. Everyone is on the edge. So many people have died. They themselves have been fighting. So much strategy, so much challenges. So Yudhishthira looks at Arjuna and says, "Wonderful! Finally, you kept your vow. You have killed Karna." And he is very happy. And then Arjuna has to say the truth. That actually I didn't kill Karna. I just heard that you were not well, so I just came to see you. And Yudhishthira becomes very angry. He says, "Fie upon you! What kind of Kshatriya are you? You take vows and you seeing it your vows. I started this war. And you are not keeping your vows also. You do one thing, better give up your Gandiva. Give it to Bhima, at least he will kill Karna." So suddenly now Arjuna removes the sword. Krishna is saying, "What are you doing?" So then Arjuna says, now Yudhishthira is not hearing this. Arjuna tells to Krishna, "Actually I have taken a vow. Anyone who tells me that to keep my Gandiva down, I will take the sword and kill that person." So Krishna says, "So you kill your brother? What are you saying? What are you doing?" Right, then Krishna says, Krishna quotes Bhagavad Gita himself. Sambhavitasya chakirtir marnat riche. One who has been insulted, Kshatriya especially, is insulted, that is worse than death for him. So then Krishna tells to Arjuna, do one thing, you insult Yudhishthira. That is as good as killing him and not killing him also. Otherwise you kill the king of the, why are you fighting this war then if you are going to kill him? So then Arjuna goes on a rampage. He says, "You are not a leader, you are a misleader because of you. No, you were sitting in the Rajasuri Yajna, and we were all the four brothers went and fought the whole world for you, and you just lost it in a gambling match. Not only the kingdom, you lost yourself, us, your wife, she got insulted, then we went to forest, all because of you." And Arjuna becomes silent. And Yudhishthira now Yudhishthira's side, he takes the sword. Not sword, actually, he says that, actually what Arjuna is saying is correct. I don't deserve to be the king, I am giving everything and going, you continue the fight. And Krishna is like, "Arey baap, ek ko control kiya to dusra upar control ho raha hai." So he went out of control. Right. And then finally Arjuna comes and says, "Actually I didn't mean it. And this is the vow I had taken, that's the reason I had to speak such harsh words." So they were very clear about the word of honor. Today, despite having written agreement, people default. But in those times, even the verbal honor, verbal word, especially for Kshatriya, discuss one more pastime like that. So that was the extreme natures of the Pandavas. Bhima was Kshatriya square, whereas Yudhishthira was Brahmana Kshatriya. He was more righteous, he was more forgiving. We discussed in the Ashwatthama past time also, how Yudhishthira was saying, no, forgive Ashwatthama. So here, what was happening is, Yudhishthira was such a personality, he could not find fault in anyone also. So once Dronacharya called Yudhishthira and Duryodhana and said, to both of you, I give you one task. You have to finish it by end of day. What is the task? He tells Yudhishthira to go all over your kingdom and find out one person better than you. And he tells the same task to Duryodhana. Sorry, he tells Yudhishthira one person worse than you. He tells Duryodhana one person better than you. EOD. That is a time for the task. So both of them go around the whole city and come back in the evening, and both of them have the same answer. I could not find anyone. Yudhishthira said, I could not find anyone lower than me. Duryodhana said, I could not find anyone better than me. So both having this kind of thought process. So here, Yudhishthira is in depression now. And this is what happened to the next verse after the Kunti Maharani prayer. Aho me pashyata jnanam hridi rudam duratmanah parkyashaiva dehasya bhavyo me kshaunir tahata. King Yudhishthira said, Oh my Lord, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart. It is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many phalanxes of man. So this is his thought process. Similarly, next verse he says, I have killed many, many boys, brahmanas, well-wishers. Who is a brahmana? He is referring to Dronacharya. Although he didn't personally kill, and that's another elaborate pastime, maybe some other time we'll discuss. Well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors and brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me for all of these sins. So what is happening here with respect to Yudhishthira Maharaj? There are three kinds of challenges in life. One is adversity. What is adversity? When some external circumstances create challenge in our life. That's adversity. Like for example, in Pandava's life, or in general example, if you see COVID-19. Some people say it was a biological weapon launched by China for the whole world and everything. But even if you keep that conspiracy aside, it was a disease. It spread all over the world, killed 3 lakh people. That's an adversity. Earthquake is an adversity. Flood is an adversity. Drought is an adversity. So what was the adversity in the life of Pandavas? So they were in the forest. Pandu, their father, he was more of that kind of Brahmana Kshatriya mentality. He was in the forest with his wife and children. And then one fine day, Pandu dies. No one kills him. He has a curse, he does a mistake, and then he dies. That's an adversity. So because of that, the sages in the forest, they say to Kunti and Madhvi, actually Kunti, they say that actually you are living in the forest, you don't have a husband also, and there are a lot of animals, wild animals here, so better you go back to the kingdom. And it's you are entitled to it. You're not stealing someone else, it's your own property. But actually, the sages may not have known that more dangerous animals than the kingdom were, the forest were in the kingdom. So what is happening there, in the kingdom, because Pandu had gone to the forest with his children, Dhritarashtra became a caretaker. Because Pandu died especially. And he never expected that the Pandavas will come back to the kingdom. Because of which he thought, my desire which I could not fulfill of becoming the king, मैं अपने बच्चे को बना दूँ. Who is the बच्चा? That is खतरनाक बच्चा was that. And that बच्चा and the Kauravas especially, they were entitled that I am going to be, obviously I am going to be the king. So there is this concept, every king has a child, has a concern that he wants the next king. So it's called heir or H-E-I-R, heir they say. So but at the same time the king is concerned that what if the child dies? So he has one more child. And that child is called as the spare. So spare child होता है ऐसे spare. So if the heir dies, then the spare becomes the king. But the spare is in a very peculiar condition. What is the condition? The spare can become the heir only if the heir dies. So if he wants to be the king, he has to wish for his brother's death. Right? And if the brother remains the king, he will never be the king. Right? So there has been one situation like that in the recent past. I think that's in London, Harry, if I am not wrong. There is one spare like that, who then eventually, he never got to be the king. He was a spare and then he went to the US and now stayed there. He's written a book, The Spare. The whole book is filled with complaints. He lived probably more than 99.99% of people's luxuries in the world. Everything was at his disposal. But his desire was, I want to be the king, which could never happen. So here suddenly Duryodhana, who was the head, overnight when the Pandavas came, because Yudhishthira was elder to him, Duryodhana became spare. And on top of that, because the Pandavas had stayed in the forest, when they came back, naturally with the sages they were dealing, so they, first of all, they were new people. So all the courtesans and the kingdom was really curious about the new kids that are. On top of that, they were more well behaved and mannered and polite also, because they were dealing with the sages in the forest. They should do their own work in the forest. There are no servants in the forest and everything. So because of that, Duryodhana became envious, and he thought, let me actually do something by which I can remove the Pandavas from the picture. And he started doing stuff. What was the first mistake he did? Poisoning Bhima. Many people say that actually Duryodhana was a very nice person. Shakuni spoiled him. But poisoning of Bhima happened before Duryodhana met Shakuni. So meeting Shakuni, Duryodhana was not good and became bad because of Shakuni. Duryodhana was bad and became worse because of Shakuni. So they poisoned Bhima. So that is where the atrocity comes. The second phase, where you know that there is another human being who is trying to make your life miserable. And Duryodhana did, not only he tried to poison Bhima, then after that he tried to burn all the Pandavas in the house of Lac, including his mother figure, Kunti. And then came the gambling match. So repeatedly they faced atrocities. Such people are called as Artai. Bhagavad Gita talks about. They are called as aggressors. One who attacks you with weapon, one who tries to burn your property, steal your property, try to usurp other person's wife. So those people are other kinds, atrocity. So Yudhishthira Maharaj faced adversity. That time he didn't go into depression. He faced atrocities also. That time also he didn't go into depression. But when did he go into depression? When he had to face agony. Agony means when a good person is forced to do bad things. And the same situation was of Arjuna also. So Arjuna, generally, if you have two choices, good and bad, that's what moral crisis. Very easy. Choose the good one. As long as your conditionings are proper, you are not overcome by your lower nature, it's easy to choose. Okay, I choose the right thing. But when there are two bad things, and you have to choose one among them, right, that's where the ethical crisis comes into picture. Right? So you need to choose an option which is minimum damage, but still damage has to happen. So that's the reason Arjuna was in depression. That how can I kill my relatives and friends? If I don't kill my relatives and friends, I'll be a beggar. Which I'll be more than happy to be a beggar, but as a Kshatriya, my dharma is not of begging. Or whose dharma is it of begging? Taking alms? Brahmanas or if not sannyasis. So this was the challenge. Damned if you do, damned if you not. So here Yudhishthira Maharaj is in depression because being such a, at least Arjuna was a little more practical in nature. But Yudhishthira Maharaj was a little more leaning towards forgiveness and righteousness. So for him to take responsibility of killing of 64 crore people was actually difficult. See, although that was not what he wanted. We will discuss later what actually happened with respect to the peace mission. So this is the difference between a divine and a demoniac, the way they introspect. So demoniac people can't even understand. जो असुर होते हैं, उनको पता ही नहीं चलता कि कितना भी गलत करें कि मैंने गलत किया है. Even the grossest of the mistake. Like on the 4th day of the battle of Kurukshetra. So we know that on the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita. But on the same battlefield of Kurukshetra, Bhishma speaks Vrindavan pastimes of Krishna. To whom? Duryodhana. Like then I was recently, when I was preparing this PPT, I was trying to find photos. So one such photo I saw, or a YouTube video thumbnail. Thumbnail was, why not Bhagavad Gita to Duryodhana? Why only to Krishna? Arjuna. So when one of our devotees was invited to give a class, Brahmachari devotee, in JNU. And we know JNU is a little leftist and they are more atheistic kind of a. So they said, see, we wanted to speak on Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata, but we don't want the regular Pandavas were good, Kauravas were bad, victory of the good, we don't want all of that. Give us something more secular. So Prabhuji said, done. What is the topic? Leadership lessons from Duryodhana. They were very happy. So what was the main leadership lesson? Duryodhana was 100 people, 100 brothers he had, but he had control over all 100. If you, those of us who have siblings, right, we know how difficult it is to convince them, especially when they grow up. And they're scared, we can just slap them and tell them whatever they are. But when they grow up, when they become like 20s and 30s, it's very difficult to have a correlation or agreement between brothers. And here, Duryodhan, one man was able to convince 100 people out of respect or out of fear. Out of fear. That was the thing. So the other Kaurava brothers saw that Duryodhan, someone doesn't align with him, he is ready to kill them, including their mother also. So how will he spare us? Out of fear, they were actually staying. So on the fourth day of Battle of Kurukshetra, so first day when the battle started, Arjuna was still not in the mood to fight. In the sense, he was ready to fight, but relatives, same reason, despite hearing Bhagavad Gita. So first day, Kauravas almost got victory over Pandavas. Second day, Bhima became very angry. He said, "What is this, Arjuna? Come on, we have to go kuch karna hai." Then Bhima led the way and he got a lopsided victory on Kauravas. Third day, neutral. On the fourth day, Bhima was so aggressive, he went and destroyed an entire elephant division. Alone, single-handedly. And Duryodhan for the first time was shocked. He thought, I never imagined that after 14 years of Vanvas, these people will have army at all in the first place. Not only they have army, and now they are actually defeating us almost. So he was in full bewilderment. So the Bhishma Dev ke paas jana. And Bhishma Dev is looking for an opportunity to preach. And then Bhishma Dev says, this is a good opportunity. Right? Because especially when people are going through turmoil and difficulty, that's when people are open to hear philosophy. Generally, if you see dinner koi kha raha hai, no one discuss Krishna, Bhagavad Gita unless they are devotees. They always discuss BJP, Congress, or some politics, some movie, something new has come, or some scandal that has broken up. People turn to spirituality or philosophy especially when things don't make sense in life. So people turn towards, when things don't make sense in life, people turn towards philosophy to make some sense. How can this happen? How can this bad thing happen to me? Right. So similarly here, finally Duryodhan turns towards Bhishma and Bhishma says, yes, then Bhishma starts speaking glories of Krishna. Vrindavan pastimes also. What to speak of Bhagavad Gita? Bhagavad Gita was still philosophical. And Bhagavad Gita we say ABCD of spiritual life. And then we have Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam also, first 9 cantos are really philosophical. Vishnu Tattva, a lot of things are discussed. 10th canto is Krishna pastimes. And here Bhishma Dev is giving that to Duryodhan. Duryodhan hears it. And after hearing it, he comes out of his Bhishma's tent. And on the way towards his tent, he thinks, can Krishna be really God? Because he thought Krishna is like an extraordinary person. He is a very strategist. He goes to his tent and on the way he is thinking, Krishna is really God. I don't think I have done anything that bad that God should be angry at me. I don't. Why? Because he is not able to remember. Because demoniac person, even imagine burning your own cousins and trying to kill your own aunt, poison them. Kuch yaad nahi aa raha hai. I don't think I have done anything wrong as such. And then he comes back and then he looks the direction of the Pandava army where there is Krishna also. He pays obeisances to that direction and then goes to sleep. If at all it is Krishna is God, this is for you. And after many days, that was the best sleep he had in his life. Next day morning he gets up. And here Bhishma Dev is in excitement. So yesterday I gave some Bhagavatam class. Hopefully it has had some effect on the Duryodhan. He may come and say that, I was thinking we'll stop this for 5 villages will give or something. Next day Duryodhan comes and says, okay, so what's the strategy today to destroy Pandavas? So, take. That's what he understands. So here, this was the condition of, so on one side, Yudhishthira Maharaj, despite having no fault of his own, is taking full responsibility and ready to go into depression. And here Duryodhan, despite grossly doing things, is not able to understand that he has made something wrong. So that is the beauty of actually devotees. The divine mentality is such that even small mistake, people actually take it very seriously. Like we have example of Madhurya Puri. So he was Jagannath Puri. So one stop was Kheer Chor Gopinath. So that time there was no Kheer Chor, it is called Gopinath. So वो मंदिर गए, मंदिर जाके we was waiting for altar to open, भोग offering चल रहा था, शुरू होने वाला था. That time one pujari took one big plate of 8 matkas of filled with kheer, and as he was going, Madhurya Puri ने उसको सूंघा, the smell came to him. And after smelling, he was thinking, I wish I would know this recipe for this kheer, so that I can offer it to my Gopal. So, but then immediately he thought, what am I doing? Offering, start pinning हुआ है. Before the Lord is eating, actually I'm enjoying it. So he was so disgusted, he didn't even wait for the altar to open. He went out and left the temple, went to the market. There was a market nearby, and he was sitting and chanting Hare Krishna. So the pujari offered the boga, removed the boga, opened it, आरती हो गया, बंद किया, सब मंदिर बंद हो गया. Night, in the middle of the night, the Lord Gopinath came in the pujari's dream and said, "My devotee Malvendra Puri is actually waiting. He is actually there in the marketplace. I want you to go and give one matka of kheer to my devotee." So then the pujari says, "But then I distributed the kheer to everyone." He said, "No, actually you offered it. One matka you can keep it behind me." So he didn't even recognize that. That's by Krishna's mercy. Then he immediately had bath, went into the altar, and he saw one matka was there. And then he went and he's now on the streets on the marketplace. Aapko imagine, our market, there's a street lights also properly. He's going and screaming on the streets of that place. See that who's Malvendra Puri? Gopinath has stripped kheer for you, stolen kheer for you, kheer chor, Gopinath. And then Malvendra Puri gives him, and then Malvendra Puri takes that with great affection. Not only that, he even actually smashes that matka and he'll give it to you because Lord even stole matka for him, not only just kheer. And then he became so famous. This is what it is said, Pratishta Nari Sadakuva. Pratishta is a Nari. And Pratishta, that lady, it's a metaphorical explanation. That lady wants to marry. But she wants to marry devotee. Devotee says, "I don't want to marry. I married to Krishna." So, devotee is running behind Krishna. Pratishta is running behind devotees. And ordinary people are running behind Pratishta. So, people are wanting fame, name and everything. But who is getting it? Devotees. So similarly here, and when Malvendra Puri left that town immediately, he said, "I don't want necessary fame and glory and everything." He left that town. Before he would reach the next town, already his fame had reached there. They were welcoming him, and then finally when he reached Jagannath Puri, he was wondering, how will I get Chandan from the king? I'm still nobody. But Lord arranged for it. So by the time he reached Jagannath Puri, the king already knew, and king arranged not only for Chandan but also servants to carry and many oil to offer to the needs. So that is the glory of devotees. In a small mistake, they will be actually feeling guilty about it. One more example is there from Mahabharata itself. So Draupadi had how many husbands? 5. So the 5 husbands came up with an agreement. See, each one of us are married to Draupadi. And marriage means intimate relationship. And especially there in the forest also. So they made an arrangement that whenever one of the Pandavas is actually intimately like in a closed room with Draupadi, no one else will interrupt. If anyone interrupts, they will go for 1 year exile. So one Yudhishthira and Draupadi were just sitting and talking. The door was closed. This was in Vanvas. Suddenly, one Brahmana goes into trouble. Some thieves come to steal his property, and he comes and begs help from Arjuna. Arjuna immediately goes, receives Gandhi Baba was inside the room. So immediately barges inside, takes the bow, defeats those thieves, protects the Brahmana, comes back and explains the situation to Yudhishthira Maharaj and Draupadi. Both of them say it's okay. We were just talking. Then Arjuna says no. I've taken a vow and that has to be fulfilled. Then within exile he goes for exile for 1 year. So this is the glory of devotees. They take even the small transgressions very, very seriously. So then, interestingly, this is a very interesting place where the shloka says, King Yudhishthira, who was very much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna himself. The performer of superhuman feats and despite all historical evidence. So here we discussed what is the first point of discussion. Krishna is actually the Supreme Lord. Whatever he wills, that has to happen. But that could not happen, first of all, because his devotee is really stronger than his. Okay, done. But here, Yudhishthira is in depression. Vyasadeva is giving counseling. Krishna is giving counseling, who was recently successful thanks to Arjuna coming out of his depression. But he failed. So then the question comes, how can God fail? Like many people ask this question. Lord Ram could not protect Sita. How can he protect me? Right, so people have this question, how can God fail? One small detour and small disclaimer. This image was actually created in ChatGPT. So I went to Google, searched a lot. I wanted one image which shows Krishna, Yudhishthira and Vyasadeva, but I could not. Then I went and put a prompt in ChatGPT. Now, because ChatGPT is mostly trained based on the Western leftist data, we created an image literally look like from Bible. King Yudhishthira wearing white clothes, Krishna is also wearing hardly any clothes. The 3-4 prompts here, and it was showing the Yudhishthira Maharaj is depressed. It was showing Krishna and Vyasa also depressed. Then product prompt even in this, it's not that good, but okay. Manageable. So here actually 11th canto Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's disciple. So Prabhupada wrote the last chapter of translation was 10th canto, 13th chapter, Prabhupada Mukti. So 30 that onwards, all the way to 90 and 11th canto, 12th canto was written by disciples of Prabhupada. There was a committee formed, one brahmachari, grahastha and one sannyasi. So they translated and they wrote the purports based on the Acharya's commentaries. So one of such purports, long purport, 11th canto, is beautiful long purports. So there one of the purports, the Prabhupada disciples write, they quote Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. They say that actually the materialists in this world, they work very hard to create technology. Very hard. I mean, you can imagine the amount of money that is gone into creating a next ChatGPT, laptop or whatever it is. Work very hard, only so that devotees can happily, easily, comfortably use it in Krishna service. So having said that, that is quote from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. During Prabhupada's time, there was a, and Prabhupada also used technology so much, jet planes, dictaphones and whatnot. But that time one devotee came to Prabhupada in 1970s and told Prabhupada, there's a new machine that has come. It's called telex, basically fax machine, 1973, 1974. He said, Prabhupada, the beauty of that machine is, we have one machine in all the temples and instantly devotees can communicate with each other. One fax machine is in and all temples get that, they can reply in the Prabhupada said not required. He said, if that machine comes, you'll only simply do gossip. WhatsApp. Today, internet, 50 years later, internet is 10,000 more. ChatGPT is even higher. Right. And thanks to Ambani ji, even Jio has become free. Water is expensive than internet nowadays. Right. So in that circumstance, how careful we should be, actually, especially when we have such instant communication in our pockets. Coming back to the discussion. So how can God fail? People may ask this question, isn't it? Achha, there is one more example of Krishna failing, apparently failing. Anyone? Yes, Madhuri?
Yeah, Lord wanted that he should not get angry with their point, and he wanted to glorify Vishnu.
This is the actual reason. Mataji actually gives spoilers for today's discussion. But there is another example, another different pastime where Lord Krishna fails, apparently fails. The peace message. He went as a peace messenger, the peace mission. Lord Krishna apparently failed. We'll discuss about that also. So now this is a cliffhanger. We'll put a pause at this. We'll come back to this at the end of this class. Okay? How can Lord Krishna not succeed in trying to convince Yudhishthira? For that matter, convince Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra for peace mission. Now coming back to our hero for the today's discussion. Bhishma. So Bhishma Pitama, his father's name is Shantanu. So this is all before Pandavas and Kauravas. This is really even before Dhritarashtra and Pandu and others. Shantanu's son was Bhishma, and actually Bhishma Dev. Okay, I'll come to that later. So first, Shantanu actually one day was going on the walk towards the Ganges river. He sees a beautiful lady there. He falls in love with her and says, "I am to marry you." That is Ganga. And she says, "I will marry you under one condition. No matter what I do, you can't question my actions." Right. So one devotee was saying, "Guruji, nowadays I am experiencing the same in searching for my match also. Whatever I do, it should not be questioned." Anyway, so he says, yes, whatever you see. He was fully in love with her. Whatever it was, fell in love, infatuated, whatever it is. So then, what was her choice? Once the child was born, she would take the child, go to the river Ganga and throw the child in the river. No explanations whatsoever. Right. So I was hearing one devotee was telling, he was in one temple and he was giving class, festival class. After the class was over, he had a lot of discussions with devotees, and generally after the class devotees go down and take prasad. So by the time he went to take prasad, almost all prasadam was over. Only even sweet was gone. Rice dal was there, and he was feeling a little sad, but he was taking prasad. So as he was taking prasad, devotees had gone. One senior devotee was sitting in the side, and he was already having that sweet. And he called the server and said, "Do you have sweet, extra sweet again?" And he said, "Actually, Guruji, sweet khatam ho gaya." But he was very senior devotee. So we asked, "Can you just check if it is there?" So then all people are running around, and the kitchen head came. He's asking teacher also, "Sikh bacha hai kya? Abhi project khatam ho gaya, ढूंढ सकते हो क्या?" Everyone is running around. And Prabhuji is taking prasad. क्या है ये? Already you got sweet. I didn't get any sweet. I am tolerating. You already have one sweet and you are making the whole community run around for one extra sweet. He was eating sweet, eating his prasad. And then finally, one devotee was serving prasad. He had kept his plate ready. Otherwise, it's difficult to serve sometimes. You know that everything is getting over. A lot of times, festival time, this complaint comes. The devotees come and they say, "Who is this serving devotee? He is serving sabji like chutney." Right. So then they came up with an idea that we prepare a plate for the servers before serving only. So that time to time they keep seeing the plate is there ready, their future is bright, then they can serve next. So this devotee went, and finally one devotee sacrificed his sweet and gave it to this Prabhu. By this time, our Prabhu, who had missed the sweet, he was like so disgusted. But he didn't say anything, of course. He was so upset. How can some senior devotee do like this? So that devotee came and brought the sweet. And then the senior devotee said, "Not for me. Prabhu didn't get sweet. Unko do." And Prabhu's full perspective changed. And he said, "Thank God I didn't take prasad fast and get up. Otherwise for life I would be offending and I would not do devil." And so similarly here, Mother Ganga is throwing the baby in the Ganges. 1, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. 7 of them back to back. He was tolerating, but he could not tolerate after a certain point. At the 8th child, when she was throwing, Shantanu came and said, "What are you doing? How can you be so heartless? I want explanation for this." She says, "Take the baby, mention," and she left. So what is the pastime behind this? So these 8 children, including Bhishma Pitama, were actually the Vasus in the previous life, who were actually cursed for trying to steal Kamadevu, Nandini from Vasishtha Muni. The leader of that was one of the Vasus called Daisu, D-A-Y-S-U, Daisu. So all of them were cursed. Then they went and begged forgiveness. Then Mother Ganga said, "I will relieve you from this curse. I will not let you stay in the earthly planet for a long period of time, except for Daisu, because he was the main leader. He will stay for a long period of time. Others immediately, the moment they are born, they will be relieved and they will go back to heaven." So this is that Devavrata, who actually stayed back. So eventually, Bhishma Pitama, he goes and he becomes well trained, very powerful warrior. One day, now because Mother Ganga is gone now, his father is like alone. So Shantanu was just again going for hunting excursion. He sees one lady called Satyavati. He falls in love with her again. And then he approaches the father. Father is very smart, very, very smart. He says, "You can marry my daughter, but my daughter's son will be the next king." And then Shantanu says, "This is an injustice towards Devavrata." He says, "No, that I can't." But then when he comes back home, Devavrata says that his father is upset. Then he checks with the driver. Driver says, "This is what happened." Then Devavrata goes to Satyavati's father, makes an arrangement that, "Okay, I will never be the king. My Satyavati and Shantanu's children will be the king." But then he is even more smart. Fisherman, the father of Satyavati, says, "Okay, you will not become the king, but what about your children? They will want to be the king." Then he takes a vow. See that Bhishma vow. It's a very difficult vow. She says, "I will never marry also." So this is very difficult because this is Kshatriya. Kshatriyas are very passionate, and for them to take a vow of celibacy is even more difficult. And most people who take vow of celibacy, they don't stay in the middle of a city. They go to forest and become brahmacharis. He is living in the palace, and that too a palace such dirty politics. Right? That was the legacy of Bhishma. We'll come to that as we discuss it. So he takes a vow. This is the backstory of who Devavrata is. And not only he takes that vow, he takes one more vow. He says that, "I will always take the side of the ruling group." And that is the reason, although going ahead, Pandu dies, Dhritarashtra is blind. So in such situation, when kingship is weak, naturally neighboring kingdom will want to come and attack and destroy and usurp the kingdom. But no one dared to attack the Kuru race despite having no proper king, because everyone knew there is Bhishma. This is with respect to the man, that is Bhishma, from prince to preceptor. Now coming to the myths. They say that I have seen some documentaries, the man, the myth and the legend. So we will discuss about all 3 parts of Bhishma. So coming to the myths. As we discussed, there are so many people who are having negative perceptions about Bhishma, and rightly so. If you read Mahabharata without Acharya's commentaries, you will end up loving the villains and hating the heroes. The way Karna was killed, right? And the way what happened to the way Dronacharya was killed, the way Bhishma, which we discussed today also. So what happens here? One of the reasons is the Asat Sabha. How can Bhishma be silent when Draupadi was being discovered? And Asat Sabha is such a situation where nobody comes out clean except Draupadi. Everyone has made some mistake or the other. What is the mistake? They are mistaken the evaluation of which dharma is right. So when how did many people say Yudhishthira Maharaj? So the lesson from Mahabharata is gambling is good. Why Yudhishthira Maharaj gambled? Right. So the actual lesson is even a person like Yudhishthira Maharaj when he gambled, he lost so much. How much should we be careful? So why did Yudhishthira Maharaj end up gambling? In the Rajasuya sacrifice, after the sacrifice was over, before the whole gambling match, he went and takes the blessings of Vyasdev and says, please give me the blessings so that I can rule peacefully. Vyasdev says that actually there is going to be a huge conflict, after which there will be a long peace. That's it. He doesn't give any more explanation. Yudhishthira Maharaj thinks that, oh, there is going to be a huge conflict. Why does conflict happen? When two people are having disagreement, there is an authority who comes and tries to solve the problem. But when you disregard authority also, that's when the war happens. So I will make sure that I will never disregard authority. Whose authority for me? Dhritarashtra. Unfortunately, authority was not impartial. She was partial towards Duryodhana. So then Duryodhana makes a plan of gambling. He says Dhritarashtra to invite him. And Dhritarashtra sends the message to Vidur, the devotee. So here Yudhishthira is in trouble now. Because not only Dhritarashtra is calling, but through Vidura. Two seniors are calling. So he was bound by his words. And he thought, no, whatever Dhritarashtra is thinking is my well mission. Acha hi hoga, jo bhi wo sochenge. Then he goes to the gambling match and then he loses everything. So what happens in the gambling match? Once the Pandavas lose everything, they become slaves, they become servants of Duryodhana, and then they even lose Draupadi. That time the conflict of dharma comes. There is Dasya Dharma, the duty of the servants. There is Kshatriya Dharma. There is Pati Dharma. The reason why good people were completely silent there was because they are not able to understand which is better here. Things are happening very fast. So even when Draupadi was called, even Bhishma was having Dharma sentiment. That okay, the Pandavas are actually currently servants and they have gambled you. So do they have the capacity to protect you or not protect you? So all of that was actually a plan of Krishna so that pastime can happen. But if you see from ethical perspective, Bhishma had a lapse in judgment. And that is one reason people say. And because of that lapse in judgment, later Duryodhana also loses respect in one sense, or I would say respect, fear of Bhishma. He says that, oh, that time he was silent, now also he was silent. So that's the reason when one mistake you tolerate, and people take that as a license to keep on doing further mistakes. That is one problem. One more was, Bhishma didn't change sides from Kauravas to Pandavas. He did right, Vibhishan did. So people have this misconception or blame why they don't respect Bhishma. He remained on the side of Kauravas despite knowing that they are wrong. But unfortunately, he had taken a vow. He never imagined that the vow will backfire. I will fight on the ruling side. He never thought the ruling side will be so cunning. And third reason people say is Bhishma got corrupt because he took the salt. Interestingly, in the next pastime of this, when finally Krishna takes all the Pandavas to Bhishma Pitama, who is lying on the bed of arrows, that time Krishna tells to Pandavas, now let's go and take Yudhishthira, please take instructions on dharma from Bhishma. So that time Draupadi was standing there, she chuckles, she giggles a little bit. And Bhishma hears it. And Bhishma says, Draupadi, I think you are laughing, you are smiling or giggling, thinking that that person who could not protect me during the Asat Sabha, disobeying. Now we are supposed to hear instructions on dharma from him. Maybe you are laughing because of that. Actually, if you see, and humbly, Bhishma Pitama says that actually I had become corrupt because of eating the salt of Duryodhana, and now after so many days my blood has flown off, lying down the bed of arrows, all that contamination is gone away. Right? That is the humble position that Bhishma takes. This is with respect to the myth around Bhishma. And then now coming to the legend. So when the battle of Kurukshetra started, quickly I'll try to summarize this. It's a huge pastime, it's a beautiful story. So when the battle starts, first thing there is multiple pauses. First pause is Bhagavad Gita. Arjun says, I am not going to fight. And in 1.5 hours, Krishna clears all of it. Some people say 45 minutes, some people say 1.5 hours. Whole Bhagavad Gita, because there are no purports and translations required. So continuous Sanskrit slokas. After that, Arjuna is ready to fight now. Again there is a pause. What is the pause? Yudhishthira Maharaj. He gets down, goes on the other side of the army, takes blessings of Drona and Bhishma to defeat them. So he asks each other, please bless me. So Bhishma tells that my time for defeat is not yet come. When it comes, I will tell you how to defeat. Then he goes to Dronacharya. Dronacharya says, I cannot be defeated. When I hear some bad news, then I will actually be so much in agony, only then you can defeat. Kripacharya they go. Kripacharya says, I am indefeatable. Knowing this, go and gain victory. Anyway, he was not such a big obstacle, so they didn't worry so much about it. So finally, on the 8th day of the battle, when the battle starts, तब जब युद्ध होता है, दुर्योधन faces multiple reversals, back-to-back reversals. And that time, Duryodhana goes to Bhishma and starts blasting. He says, you are still partial, you are not fighting their heart and soul. Bhishma is having all wounds all over the body. And Bhishma says, Duryodhana, you have no gratitude. No, I am literally fighting so much, getting wounded, I am so much elder to you, and still you have no gratitude. Fine, no problem. 5 arrows you bring me, I will empower them. I take a vow that with these 5 arrows, I will kill the Pandavas tomorrow. He takes a vow, and Bhishma's vow is, how strong it is. Who gets to know that? So Duryodhana said, no. Give me the 5 arrows. I take care of these 5 arrows. Tomorrow morning I give it. So he So then he keeps the vow with him. Arrows with him. Then Krishna wakes up Arjuna. Nikal. So then they both go to Kaurava's side. And then Duryodhana says, oh Arjun, we are going to this side of the battlefield. Tell me what do you want? You want the whole kingdom? I'll give it back to you, no problem. He will not ask back. They have a lot of honor to ask like that. So then finally, Arjuna says, I want those 5 arrows. And Duryodhana is shocked. How did you know about 5 arrows? That's Krishna told me. Right? And why is now Duryodhana giving those arrows back? For that, we need to see one more past time. Where when the Pandavas were in the forest, there was a river, and they were on the side of the bank of the river, they were staying there. Duryodhana was feeling still not satisfied. He was like, this called Dushta Chadushta, 4 evil people. Duryodhana, Dushasan, Karna, Shakuni. They were sitting and planning. Duryodhana is still not happy. He says, I'm still not happy, I'm having all the opulence in the world. Then he says, I have one more plan. Let us take our entire army, our whole family, and to picnic on the bank, at the opposite of the Pandavas' bank. So when they see our opulences, they burn in envy. That will give me happiness. It's literally the Onida TV's tagline. Neighbor's envy is owner's pride. That's a perfect example for it. So then they go. Unfortunately, that place at that time, Gandharvas were actually having their party. Duryodhana says, get out. Gandharva says, you get out. We gods don't take instructions from human beings. And then Duryodhana says, we'll fight. So they both start fighting. Left, right, center, they fight. They defeat the Kauravas, including Karna. Everyone is wounded and thrown back. Duryodhana is still fighting. Duryodhana is caught, put in a cage like an animal. And all this is watched by Pandavas. One person is extremely happy. Bhima, he is like, finally, demigods are on our side. Something could happen in our direction. So one of the soldiers, he comes swimming on the other side and says, bachao, bachao, please bachao. So that time Yudhishthira says, actually, we should protect. Bhima says, forget, what are you talking about? So he was not able to make sense of it. Then Yudhishthira says, he's not just, Badabai is just not just like that. He got an idea. He said, Duryodhana, he said, Bhima, just imagine. If you go and save Duryodhana, what can be greater pleasure for you that your enemy is at your person? Then Bhima says, makes sense. This perfectly makes sense. He went with full enthusiasm. He says, please Arjun also go. Otherwise he'll relieve them from Gandharvas and he'll kill them. So he sends Arjun also. Arjun defeats Gandharvas. Even before defeating Gandharvas, Chitraratha and Arjuna were friends. Chitraratha said, Duryodhana is there, like an animal caught in the cage. In his earshot, Chitraratha tells Arjuna, for this animal you want to fight with me? Why you want to spoil our friendship? that is even more painful to Duryodhana. Finally, Chitraratha is defeated, Duryodhana is relieved, and Duryodhana tells to, Duryodhana had no face to show to Bhima. He looks at Arjuna and says, you have saved me, I'll give you wow, ask whatever you want. What Arjuna says, we'll park here. In the future, we'll get back to you. And that is the future, when he gets back the wow. So once he gets that, Duryodhana hears Krishna told, he goes and next day morning, Bhishma asks, Duryodhana, 5 arrows please. And Duryodhana tells the whole pastime. So Bhishma is happy internally. Krishna is trying his best to protect Arjuna. At the same time, he feels that externally my vow is I will fulfill my vow now. So he takes another vow. Today I will either kill Arjuna or make Krishna break his vow. He made me break my vow, right? I'll make Krishna break his vow. What is his vow? I will not lift any weapon. That's another beautiful pastime. There's no time, that's the problem. So 9 minutes left. So finally, they go on the battlefield and he is in full force. Left, right, center, he starts killing people for fighting like anything. So at that time, face to face Arjuna and Bhishma come. Arjuna, despite hearing Bhagavad Gita, it's very difficult. So that's why in our life also, when just because we have heard some philosophy doesn't mean that we'll be able to immediately apply it. There will always be difficulties and challenges. That there is a immediate association of devotees, senior devotees. So Arjuna is not able to fight. And then Bhishma is not stopping also. And Bhishma, he has a different reason also. Sometimes you may imagine, how can Bhishma take such a vow? In both cases, he's insulting Krishna, or he is actually killing Arjuna, who's a devotee. How can one devotee think like that? But actually, as a devotee, Bhishma had full faith in Krishna's protection of Arjuna. Plus, he was curious. Let us see how Krishna protects Arjuna. I am really curious to see. I know he will, but I want to know how Krishna does it. So he is in full force, he is shooting arrows. Arjuna is getting hit left, right, center. In the process, even Krishna is hit. 2-3 arrows go to him also. And blood splatter comes. Right? Many people ask this question: if Krishna was God, then how did he bleed? He bled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Right? And Krishna says, okay, fine. You are not ready to fight. I am not ready to see you die. So Krishna jumps from the chariot, he takes his chariot wheel and charges towards Bhishma. So that scene, this is the opening scene, right? This one. That scene where Krishna is holding the chakra, running towards Bhishma, his face has those blood splatters, hair is disheveled, completely dusty. That force that is coming, that was the ultimate perfection for Bhishma. Because Bhishma's rasa with Krishna is Vidyaras. Right, so that's, yeah.
That photo is not.
Oh, really? Oh, sorry. So here, this is there Arjuna suddenly says, what happened now? The Krishna is now going to break his. So devotees don't want to insult Krishna, Krishna doesn't want to see devotees suffer. So Arjuna runs behind and Krishna is no mood to hear. He is running and finally Krishna is running so fast, Arjuna goes and holds Krishna's thigh. And Krishna is not even aware that Arjuna is holding his thigh. He is in full force, he is getting dragged. Then finally Arjuna is chattering himself. He bangs his feet on the ground and there is a hole formed. And Krishna is now halted. And he says, Krishna, please don't, I will fight and kill you. Don't worry. Then Krishna goes back. And our Bhishma also throws down the arrow, he is ready to be killed by Krishna. So now if Krishna really wanted to kill Bhishma Pitama, there is a better chakra than this which he has, more efficient. And if he had left chakra, there was no way in which Arjuna would stop him also. So this whole pastime is to show, first of all, to experience the Vidyaras between Bhishma and Krishna. At the same time, to show how Krishna is ready to break his words to protect his devotees. What Radheshan Prabhu's Latin when he came, he sang beautiful. He starts, from Spurti camp, he starts singing that song. Nama wale ko chinta rehti, naam na ho badnaam. So this is his concern that Krishna, Draupadi ne jab bulaya, jhata aayega Krishna. That is the past. This is the legend of Bhishma Pitama. Then eventually, that day he takes a that evening he takes a vow that tomorrow 9th day I will kill Bhishma. But they don't know how to kill Bhishma. Then they go to Bhishma that night and imagine Arjuna could not even ask that question, how can we kill you? Because when Arjuna was small, he would actually climb on the lap of Bhishma and call him Papa and call him father. And Bhishma would say, I am not your father, I am your father's father. That was the relationship. And such a person, I'm going to ask him how to kill you. And then Bhishma actually says that there is one person in your army called Shikandi. Okay. And for this also there is a background. So when the Dhritarashtra's father, Vichitravirya, was born, so that time Chitrangada was killed actually, Vichitravirya was born, so Bhishma would go and try to get brides for them. So Amba, Ambalika and Ambika, this one triplets, they're sisters. But then one of them, Amba, was actually loving another person called Shalya. But he was already kidnapped by Bhishma. So when she told this to Bhishma, Bhishma said, okay, let you go. She went to Shalya. Shalya said, oh, I'm sorry, already you have been kidnapped, I can't take her. Then she goes back to Bhishma, okay, I want to marry you now. Bhishma says, I've taken a vow. Then she goes to Bhishma's guru, Parashuram. And Parashuram tells, marry. He says, I can't. Then the Kshatriya spirit, see, Brahmanas argue, Kshatriyas fight. So Parashuram and Bhima had a fight. And Bhima defeated, Bhishma defeated Parashuram. Parashuram said, I can't, I'm sorry. It's too much, this person is very strong and is very determined. So then she is now abandoned. She can't go back to her father's home. There is no one to marry her. So she curses Bhishma. I'll come in next life and be the cause of her destruction. And Bhishma accepts also. He says, yes, I could not. I was in Dharma Center. I'm ready to suffer the consequences. And that is what the Shikandi is. So then he said, you keep her Shikandi in front of you and shoot me. I will not be, she can defeat me. So next day, they start. Shikandi is now charging at Bhishma. And Bhishma is busy fighting with others. Parallelly, some arrows are getting shot. Duryodhana was in the earshot. So Duryodhana, Bhishma sees some arrows are there. And he tells Yudhishthira, in the earshot of Shikandi, these arrows are like someone throwing flower at. And Shikandi gets even more angry. Full force she is trying to, he or she, I don't know how to, whatever, she is trying to shoot. Then suddenly one arrow comes and that completely jolts Bhishma. Shikandi feels finally one arrow at least hit. One more arrow she, that also goes and jolts him. Then she sees behind Arjuna actually shooting, not Shikandi. And now Bhishma tells Duryodhana, the previous arrows were like flower, this arrow is thunderbolt. Back to back, Arjuna shoots. He is still not in the position to shoot. Finally, Krishna says, you know what to do. I have told whatever he has to be done. Arjuna says, fire upon the duty of Kshatriyas. Takes the bow and then start shooting. So much he shoots, so much arrows on his body that there is no place to put finger between two arrows. And then he falls on the battlefield. And imagine, suppose there is a world war going on. America, Canada, European countries on one side, India, China, and Japan on one side. Who is the strongest one on the western side? America. Imagine America loses the battle, or America becomes incapacitated. The whole world will be shocked. So Bhishma completely was down, war stopped, he's completely on his neck was hanging. Arjuna comes crying, Duryodhana also is crying, and he jokes also, Bhishma. He says, look at my condition, Arjuna, head is hanging, there is no support for my head. And then he shoots one more arrow on the ground, which becomes like support for Bhishma. And Bhishma is thirsty also, he again shoots one arrow, that the mother Ganga comes, he quenches his thirst, and finally, now seeing Duryodhana cry, Bhishma gives one more cry. He tells, see my situation. At least now you can stop the war. Duryodhana is crying, but he will not stop. He didn't listen to that words also. So this was the climax from the Mahabharata perspective. So now, coming back to the question, how can God lose? How can God fail? See, whenever God fails, God has multiple plans. If he is failing in one plan, it is to actually fulfill the next plan. So peace message, when Lord Krishna went as a peace messenger to Dhritarashtra, when he went, he told Dhritarashtra about it. He uses all Sam, Dam, Dand, Ved. Again, a class for some other time. I think more than me, Vyasacharya Prabhu can explain it beautifully. So 4 stages are there. Beautifully, he tries to explain. Dushasan for a minute gets scared and says, yeah, let's have peace. Duryodhana says no. So here, Krishna actually gets defeated to convince for the peace mission, so that it can be crystal clear who is actually wanting Lord. In the future, nobody will point finger that Pandus wanted Lord. In the future, not only Yudhishthira is in depression, blaming himself, the world should not blame him. Because you wanted to be the king, you killed 64 crore people. It was very clear. So plan B was that. So Krishna wanted to fulfill plan B more than plan A. Similarly here, plan A was Yudhishthira, come on, सब ठीक हो जाएगा, तुम्हारी गलती नहीं है, चिंता मत करो, historical evidence everything he gave, but he still can't. Why? Because he wanted to glorify Bhishma. That is, so the man, the myth, the legend, and within devotee community now we know that Bhishma was legend to romance, not just legend, because he is one of the 12 Mahajans, right? So here, now when we see the pastime of Krishna, maybe this prayers of Bhishma we will discuss in the future classes, but here the main point is, if we see scriptures, we can see from three perspectives: literal perspective, ethical perspective, devotional perspective. From literal perspective, that's what the people see in the world now. He was adharmic, he went on the wrong side, he made Duryodhana karma khaya वगैरह. Ethical perspective, Krishna wanted to teach a lesson. No matter how strong you are, if you are on the side of adharma, you will be destroyed. Prabhupada himself says, one Bhishma was equal to 25,000 Arjunas. That much power he had, but he didn't sustain. And devotional perspective is, Krishna actually wanted to exchange Viryas with Bhishma Pitama. If they are on the same side, imagine Krishna and Bhishma on the same side, they are fighting. That's what's happening in the world today, right? When America is putting tariffs over Canada, Europe and everything, they're like, you are on the same side, why are you fighting with your allies? People will lose confidence. The same thing here. So that was the devotional perspective. So, climaxing, concluding this whole discussion, see, there is dharma and there is bhakti. So there may be some people who are focused on bhakti, they don't care for dharma. Right? So they may break, they may do illegal things, they may not have virtues. People will say, what kind of bhakta are you? What kind of devotee are you? Yes, people say this. Right? So similarly, there are people who may be very pious, or they would do dharma properly, follow all the rules, pay tax, left side of the road, never break the signal, but they may not have devotion. So here, Bhishma's situation, the condition was such that externally it looked like he didn't have devotion. He was more fixed towards my vow, my word of honor. But he took the wrong side. So externally he was punished. But internally, because he was a devotee, to show that he was not completely on the wrong side, Krishna highlighted him by this pastime at the cost of minimizing him. Krishna never tells, there is no shloka in the Bhagavatam which says that Yudhishthira, because I wanted to glorify Bhishma, I failed as a counselor. There is no pastime like that. Krishna was ready to be misunderstood so that Bhishma's character can be clear. And then Bhishma actually glorifies not only the Pandavas, there are beautiful, especially when we as devotees trying to practice Krishna consciousness, when we face atrocities, adversities or agony, how to see that, how to deal with such situation. Like as I said, crisis in consciousness and consciousness in crisis. So when there is crisis outside, how to have that consciousness, and when there is crisis inside our consciousness only, not the attackers, how to deal. So just beautiful lessons can be taken, and we'll continue with this faster. Next will be the discussion about what Bhishma told. There's a huge 50 set of instructions, but Bhagavatam specially talks about few instructions and also what he talks about Krishna. This we will discuss in the next class. Okay? So that concludes this session. Thank you very much for your kind attention and being an amazing audience. Necessary to like add something?
Questions?
So, devotees have any question answers?
I want to add one thing.
Yes.
Haribo!
Thank you. Yes, any question answers? If you have no questions, I have questions.
Questions?
I got the feedback last class I gave 2 weeks back, and that feedback I could not dismiss also. It came from my wife. So she said that a lot of stories, we didn't give enough philosophy last time. Right. So I thought Mahajan would use more philosophy and Radha Krishna Prabhu in full force. I thought I'll just make things light. Said next time be careful. So I tried to, but this time so much Bhagavatam, Mahabharata pastimes were there. I tried to do justice like this. Maybe I'll improve more next to the lifetimes. Yes, Prabhu. Mother, is any questions? Mother, there's a question.
क्वेश्चंस ये है कि जो गैम्बलिंग है सभी लोगों को पता है, फिर भी वो क्यों इतना एक्सेप्ट कर लिया जबकि उनको पता था कि स्टेप बाय स्टेप गलत हो रहा है, वो अपने भाइयों को लगा दिए, फिर द्रौपदी को लगा दिए. ये क्वेश्चन आज भी.
Yes. So this ये जो सवाल है, this is actually answered also in the Acharya's commentaries. So you have to understand, we know why Yudhishthira Maharaj agreed for gambling. He didn't want to say no to authority. That's clear. When he went there, the first thing he tells to Duryodhana, so why do you want to take away my wealth? the wealth with which I want to serve the Brahmanas and the sages, why don't you take it away? Duryodhana has one rhetoric, common response. If you don't want to fight, don't fight. If you don't want to play, don't play. Simple as that. I'm not forcing you. Who's stealing your wealth? Right. So he is very very intelligent, smart. Right. So he was very clear. So what is happening here? Yudhishthira was losing the match after match. Somehow in the flow, he thought that I am on the right side. I don't do anything wrong to him. And Krishna also is on my side. He thought maybe this next match I will win. Sometimes they say, right, higher you go, the harder you fall. The harder you fall, the greater the comeback. He thought I have some comeback. That somehow Krishna will intervene and I have a tremendous victory. Krishna will change the whole side. So he was actually thinking that this match I will win. This match I will win. At this stage, Krishna will not let me fall. This stage. So that's why it's very important that many times, in the name of surrender, we should not actually give up our intelligence. See, there are times where we have to surrender our intelligence also. But there are times where most times we need to surrender with intelligence. Right? Like in Prabhupada's time also, there was our Kamal Vishnu Maharaj. I think, I don't know if I shared those pastimes. Our Kamal Vishnu Maharaj pastimes are amazing. Maybe sometimes you can have a dedicated classes series on the Kamal Vishnu Maharaj pastimes. So, once Prabhupada was actually in Vrindavan, and one Haigriv, Prabhu, he came to Prabhupada, and he had established a lot of preaching in multiple places in the West. And by that time, there were already close to 100 temples. So then he was sitting in Vrindavan, devotees had come. After some time, devotees went back. Prabhupada wanted devotees to come to the holy place in Vrindavan. After some time, they should go back to their respective services. So, Prabhupada was not going only 1 week, second week, third week is still there only. Then Prabhupada told him, what's the plan? What's happening? He said, no, Prabhupada, I'm just taking in the soaking in the environment of Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, okay, enough soaking, you can go and preach. Distribute also a little bit. Sprinkle a little bit. Enough of soaking. Prabhupada said, Prabhupada, what to preach? Everywhere there is temple. All over the world there are devotees now. He said, Acha, I can go and preach in Pakistan. Right. He said, Pakistan is very difficult. Then Prabhupada said, okay, go and preach in Sri Lanka. It's such a small, in the map also it is just a dot. He said, go preach. So then finally somehow he left and he went to preach in Sri Lanka. And there he came head on with one atheistic philosopher. And with them he had a long discussion. That interview came in TV, because of which his one spread even more. And in Life Comes From Life book, that whole discussion is there in the last part. Prabhupada wanted to be printed. Right. Similarly, when it comes to Juhu temple, now people have become smart. People are buying land on the outskirts of Bangalore, because if you want to buy inside the Bangalore, 2-3 lifetimes will go in clearing the EMI. So similarly, Prabhupada at that time knew that Juhu is going to be a very powerful place eventually. But devotees are not able to understand. Devotees told also, Prabhupada will give it up. No, so much problem, so much bureaucracy. The person we are fighting is also so politically powerful. We'll give it up. Prabhupada was very adamant. But and devotees surrendered with their or without intelligence. Whatever it is, devotees surrendered to Prabhupada's will. So similarly here, Yudhishthira Maharaj was thinking very strongly that now Krishna will protect. Now Krishna will protect. I can gamble. So it went like a slippery slope, and then it was disaster for him eventually. And later he learned the lesson also. When they went to forest, Arjuna, he went to heavenly planets, performed tapasya, got weapons. Bhishma used to go from place to place. Bhishma, Nakul and Sahadev would go and make allies. That's the reason they had 9 Akshauhni at least. What was Yudhishthira doing? He was playing gambling match. He became expert at it. In case after 14 years, again they call and say, let's play gambling match. So Yudhishthira became smart after that. In fact, after the whole Agyatwas, Vanvas was over, time is lapsed, and now they are waiting. Dhritarashtra will call us and give us the kingdom back. Dhritarashtra is not saying anything. Then Dhritarashtra sends a message through Sanjay. And what is the message? He tells Yudhishthira, Yudhishthira, actually the goal of life is to achieve moksha, that is perfection. And one of the way to do is vanaprastha. You are very fortunate, already you are vanaprastha. You are living in the forest. Why come back and fight and create problems? Stay there only. These are the words of Dhritarashtra. Then now Yudhishthira was having no doubts that he is a well-wisher or not. It was very clear. And then he went and then the peace mission, which failed, and then the war started. So that is the reason. So ethically, if you see, what Yudhishthira wanted to show was that even a person so pure can get dragged if they go into gambling match. Secondly, his perspective was that, okay, I am on the right side, nothing wrong can happen to me, so maybe this match I will win, next match I will win. There is, people say that, when you are at the bottom, rock bottom, or kitna bura hoga. And one devotee, one person sent me, a friend sent me a message. He said, people go to God and say that, Bhagavan, sometimes I say, isse bura aur kya ho sakta hai? I am not challenging you. Please don't take it as a challenge. I am just saying to motivate myself. So Yudhishthira was thinking कि इससे बड़ा और क्या हो सकता है, इससे बड़ा और क्या हो सकता है, लेकिन हुआ बुरा बुरा. It's that is the two perspective in which we can see the first. I hope that is able to answer.
But second time also he accepted.
Second time he accepted. I think I have not reached that. Actually, I have heard some lectures of Mahabharata from some senior devotees, and after hearing the lecture, I made a point to myself. I will personally never read Mahabharata and Ramayana myself. I just hear lectures and read to the. Maybe after hearing that, pastor will get back to you. So maybe Asajay can explain for us. We'll discuss. Anything else? Yes, please.
Just would like to know, Prabhu, Bhishma, after he leaves the body, whether he went to the heavenly planets or back to Godhead.
Mahabharata and Bhagavatam both have their own explanations. Even for Pandavas also. Mahabharata says they went to heaven. Right. Where Bhagavatam says they definitely went back to Godhead. Similarly here, from the Mahabharata perspective, he was a Vasuna. He had his long lifespan there, after which he is supposed to be going back to his position as Vasuna. Right. And then from there, back to Godhead. Any other questions? Yes, Madhavi. And last question, I would be.
We know that Karna is a bad because he insulted a woman, but after that he gave Buddhimata, he gave a promise that he didn't kill Pandavas. And he opened up with Krishna that he is a very fool and he took the part of that side part and he insulted a woman. So after that he realized and he became a realized soul. How it is
Okay.
why he became good.
Okay. Actually, Karna is a very controversial character, and again, the whole class can be taken. Maybe some other time we take the whole class on. Many people have conception that Karna is better than Arjuna in the battle. So there are 3-4 conflicts between Arjuna and Karna where clearly Arjuna is better than Karna. Again, we will not go into that right now. See, first of all, when we discuss about Karna, we should be very clear that from where are we hearing it from. Let me tell you a past time. There was a rainy season, when Ravana comes to Duryodhana and he says, I want to do yajna. And because it is raining outside, there is no wood to perform yajna. Can you please find wood for it? Duryodhana sends armies all over the kingdom. Everywhere it is raining. He could not find. He tells, sorry Brahmana, I cannot fulfill your desire. Then Brahmana feels Duryodhana is useless. I go to a person who is known for charity. Karna. He goes to Karna. Karna understands that Duryodhana did all of this to work out. Then Karna breaks the pillars of his palace and gives the wood. Amazing, no? This pastime is not there in Mahabharata. Vyas Mahabharata, there is no pastime like this. So we don't know down the line who has added what to justify their point. Like one of our devotees had gone to Boston to give a class for one program, Hindu program, non-ISKCON program, and it was Gita Jayanti. So their children, their kids were there, they were reciting shlokas. So at one point they came to 18.66. What is that? So what are they singing? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vrajam aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. Prabhuji heard this. Did they say adharma or dharma? Then they asked to that speaker, the one of the host, said, no, Prabhuji, he told sarva dharman parityajya. He said, what is this? Sarva dharman, right? He has give up all religion. Then he showed a book, Bhagavad Gita as it was. So see Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is popularity. There's another speaker, the person who's written Bhagavad Gita as it was. So in that, according to him, when initially Krishna told Arjuna, it is sarva adharman parityajya, but in the parampara, when someone had to translate, because you handwrite, someone missed that So I have now understood that it was missed and adding that again. That's why Bhagavad Gita as it was. So what is his point? His point was, how can God say, God told him, Krishna himself says in 4th chapter, why I come? Yada dharmasya glane bhavat. And the 18th chapter is saying Yog Dharma. Right. So that's why people actually they have this misconception that during in the parampara it was lost. That's the reason it was. Anyway, there's an explanation for that also. But coming back to the question, Mataji. So when it comes to Karna, there is a backstory for Karna also. Who he was. Sahasra Kavach. Right? I'm tired of doing the same thing again and again. Some other class, long discussion. But the point is, he actually did that insulting of Draupadi. Between Duryodhana and Karna, one difference was Duryodhana never regretted. Did Duryodhana regret? He regretted. He regretted that his plan didn't work. He regretted that Pandavas could not be burned. He regretted that Bhishma could not be killed. That was his regret. But to the credit of Karna, he regretted that. He told to Krishna and Bhishma also that I should not have actually told such harsh words towards Draupadi. That is the first point. Secondly, see, him being abandoned by Kunti, that was adversity. Or you can say atrocity also. His mother only be abandoned. Him being treated so lowly by the society because he was Sutaputra. Okay, that is also unfair on his behalf. Him taking side of Duryodhana because he was in a very humiliating position. Drona asked, which are you Kshatriya? He was drooping his head down. Duryodhana thought this is the best opportunity. He jumped in and said, yes, I am making Kshatriya right now. Anga Desh ka Raja. He made him the king. Okay, he felt it. See, you are in deep need, someone comes and helps, please take the help, no problem. But the one who is helping you is a terrorist. After helping you, he is saying, help me explode NG. If you are not, then what kind of gratitude? You don't have any gratitude for him. The same thing here, Duryodhana actually made. So Karna accepted, no problem. Even on the Asat Sabha, nobody did the right thing except Draupadi. So there also let us give a benefit of doubt and say, ठीक है, गलती हो गई. But when finally Krishna comes and tells, Kunti before Krishna Kunti comes and tells, you are one of the Pandavas, you are the eldest, please Jamma come on this side. There he says, no. He says, you abandoned me. Now that, so there he takes it on his own ego. So now you know that I'll kill your sons. That's why you're coming and asking that question. I'll not. I'm sorry. But you had 5 sons, according to the world. After this war also you'll have 5 sons. Either Arjuna will die or I will die. That is. Then further Indra comes and says, I want Kundal and Kavach. Before that Surya comes and tells Karna, Indra is going to come, don't give. But what Karna says, Karna still gives. But I don't know if many of us know it, he gives that, he knew Indra will be pleased and say, whatever you want to ask, one good I can give you. And then Karna asks, I want Shakti Astra. So was it charity or was it bargain? That's a question to ask. So then he gives Shakti Astra. He says only once you can use, and not all human beings can hold this. And that is later used to kill Gadotkrach. He wanted to kill it for, he wanted to keep it for Arjun, but he is forced to against Gadotkrach. Again, another beautiful pastime. So here, then finally Krishna comes. So when Krishna comes, he gives 2 arguments why I can't change the sides. First, he says, Duryodhana ka namak hai. Okay. He was there when I was in need. How can I abandon him? So as a friendship dharma, I cannot give it up. Mitra dharma. Secondly, he says, if I now go and join the Pandava side and accept them as my brothers, I will be abandoning my parents, Radha and my father. Right? So he gives 2 flimsy arguments. Because, see, if your true friend is going in the wrong direction, your friendship is to stop him or join him. Correct. So here, Duryodhana knew that Bhishma is not on my side. They are on my side, but they are soft cornered to Pandavas. Dronacharya also is not so much on my side. But Karna definitely shares my enmity with. If Karna had changed side, probably Duryodhana would have said, there is no point in fighting this. Or at least start the war in between and so much casualties, Bhishma falls away, Drona falls away, then he would have stopped. But because Karna didn't change the side, he let the war happen. Second is, see, anyway, he was known to be an adopted son. So him going and accepting Kunti would not feel. Krishna also left Yashoda and Nanda and went and stayed in Dwarka. He didn't reject or abandon the Vrindavan masses. So same would have happened. He gives 2 flimsy reasons, but actually he chose whatever reasons I gave now, whatever situations, that was still forgivable. But this consciously choosing a lower dharma was his mistake. So that's the reason. Whatever end he had to this. Okay, I think it's 9:30 now. We will stop here. Thank you very much. we have a very beautiful yatra coming up. Yesterday we had a meeting, and for the entire congregation, including 11 a.m. batch, Gita batch devotees, we are having a yatra. And that yatra is going to be Guruvayur Temple. So it's where is Guruvayur? Yeah. Yes. So we have 2-day yatra, and more details on the yatra will be shared by our Sinan. Sumesh.
Very good class.